old, based on an inspirational historical tragedy. But the elements of such a connection are still around us in a different context that provides inspiration for a better future for us and our next generations. The biggest heart is blue, not only because of its color, but also because of its feeling. It is blue as it has to accommodate for many of humanity's mistakes. Our blue heart is vast, but it is not fair to ask it to bury deep the majority of our negative impacts like waste and plastics. Our blue heart is very warm, but it is not a reason to ask it to bear the biggest consequences of a hotter earth due to global warming. Our blue heart is full of life and joy, but it is losing gradually its vital signs and becomes a tired space of despair and sadness. As you know, this afternoon, we have installed a symbolic structure that shows the real scale impact of plastic pollution that is hitting our oceans. The magnitude of such a problem can only be realized with a staggering visual illustration that hits our senses hardly and drives us for action. I hope the message is clear to the outside world as it is clear to the ones who are passionately and professionally addressing this problem. Standing here tonight, I recall with utmost joy and passion my earliest steps as an oceanographer, focusing on the study and protection of marine life, marine environment. It gives me warmth and complete satisfaction to be amongst a wonderful group of people who have decided to address the sufferings of our oceans in the most comprehensive and creative way. Oceanographers and cartographers can act in a similar way to diagnose the state of our hearts and indicate the required treatment to keep the vital signs and pulses vibrant to be able to carry the responsibility of keeping the body alive. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce to you tonight one of the leading figures in our common fight to address and remedy the pains of our big blue heart. As a global figure in the advocacy for humanitarian support and sustainability, Her Majesty Queen Noor Al Hussein is an iconic figure and a source of inspiration for all of us. Her Majesty Queen Noor has been creating positive impacts throughout her distinguished work in politics and sustainability issues. She has made environmental priorities an essential component of her work to promote human security and conflict resolution. Since 1978, when environmental awareness was at its nascent phase, even in the developed world, Queen Noor was the patron of the Royal Society for the Conservation of Nature, which is the first environmental NGO in the Middle East, and it has gained strong mandate for establishing, managing, and maintaining protected areas. Being a leader for environmental policy, Queen Noor has been at the helm of key strategic steps in environmental management in Jordan through the 1980s and 1990s, establishing institutions, developing policies, and inspiring best practices of mobilizing the power of people. Her work expanded to the global level, where she has focused on environmental conservation and human security with emphasis on water and ocean health. She is a member of the Ocean Elders, patron of the International Unit for Conservation of Nature, founding and emeritus president of BirdLife International, and has received the United Nations Environment Program Global 500 Award among other honors, for her activism. With great honor and pleasure, I introduce to you Her Majesty Queen Noor Al Hussein.
Your Excellency, thank you, and especially for your original floating feet in the Dead Sea today, and for representing in your efforts the very best of the Jordanian and Arab sustainable development vision. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let me begin by addressing our dearest Sumaya, our beloved niece, and source of immense national pride for all your achievements, building upon, as you all learned yesterday in that dazzling opening ceremony, the foundation laid by your uncle, King Hussein, and his diligent and dedicated brother, your father, Prince Hassan. Thank you for including me and our planet's blue heart in the body of this forum that you have so generously and brilliantly realized for our beloved Jordan as well as for the international community. I'm very proud. Dear friends, it is a particular privilege to join you for this, the Middle East's first World Science Forum, especially as I feel quite the imposter lacking any plausible scientific credentials, and unable to offer a pre-dinner mezza course of stimulating, in-depth scientific exploration. But I can, however, offer my heartfelt welcome and some perspectives from my life and work over the past 4 decades, promoting sustainable development of East Lothian and Jordan, our region, and beyond. The World Science Forum's choice of our unique Dead Sea coast for your meetings is, as you are discovering, an ideal location for cross-cultural encounters and for interdisciplinary scientific engagement. And it has presented a valued opportunity for us to share our rich tradition and future of science in Jordan with the Middle East's age-old contributions to every category of scientific inquiry. Pride in this glorious heritage inspires me daily and informs the efforts of many today in diverse fields. Our region has been the terrestrial and oceanic crossroads of civilizations over the millennia. Islamic civilization's magnificent contributions to the fields of astronomy, mathematics, mechanics, medicine, and more were undoubtedly transmitted as much by our seafaring ancestors as by land traders. The legendary Sinbad the Sailor had a multitude of real-life counterparts, and great minds such as the cartographer Al-Idrisi and the explorer Ibn Battuta looked to the oceans for answers to many questions that remain unanswered today. Our Holy Quran states, "He it is who appointed the stars to you, that you may guide yourselves by them through the darkness of land and sea." And so the ocean has defined our shared heritage of exploration and innovation as a planetary human family, and has provided the pulse of life to our world for eons. It is, as we've all been saying, the blue heart of our planet, though, for far more reasons than exploration. As we congregate in ever larger cities and fly blindly over vast swathes of blue and obsess about those small spaces that we call nations and states, we too often forget that life originated in the ocean, that the ocean covers more than 70% of the surface of our planet, contains 97% of Earth's water, regulates our climate, and serves as a vast carbon sink by absorbing 25% of our excess carbon from the burning of fossil fuels and 90% or more of the extra heat. My fellow ocean elder and ocean mentor, Dr. Sylvia Earle, often asks an audience, "Do you like to breathe?" before explaining how phytoplankton produces between 50 to 85% of the oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. The ocean also provides us with food, jobs, inspiration, and coastal security. More than 3 billion people depend upon the ocean as their primary source of protein. Over 3 billion rely on the ocean for their livelihoods. But the ocean is in trouble, and therefore, so are we. It has changed more in the last 40 to 50 years than in all of human history. That excess global warming heat that I mentioned earlier is warming our ocean with devastating implications, from sea level rise and more powerful storms such as the recent Caribbean hurricanes and Asian monsoons, to the loss of coral reefs and mangroves. Ocean warming contributed to the subsurface melting of Antarctic ice shelves and is projected to increase sea level rise 2 to 6 feet or more. Coastal cities will be increasingly vulnerable to flooding, and islands in the South Pacific may disappear altogether. And as you may know, the Arctic is warming twice as fast as the global average and is ground zero for climate change. Coral reefs are underwater rainforests, and we in Jordan treasure our coral reefs. They are among the most biodiverse and productive ecosystems in the natural world. And though a small fraction of the ocean, they are home to approximately a quarter of all marine species, and critically reduce storm impacts on land by 90%. In the last 30 years, we have lost nearly half of these precious biomes due to ocean warming, acidification, more powerful storms, and overfishing. Researchers predict that we could lose 90% of these reefs by 2050 without drastic intervention. Similar to coral reefs, mangrove forests are among the most threatened ecosystems in the world. We don't often speak about mangroves, but these natural carbon scrubbers store an estimated 3 to 4 times the amount of carbon as terrestrial forests. These highly productive ecosystems also help protect coastlines from storms, reducing their impacts by 60%. They are a vital source as well of protein for coastal communities. In the last 50 years, we've lost nearly 50%. There are more than 400, now please forgive me. I'm happy to be speaking before dinner. I don't want to contribute to indigestion on anyone's part, but these are facts that are so little understood because the ocean, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the ocean because we can see it. And it has been a magnet to us while the ocean is deep, dark, unfathomable blue space that everyone takes for granted except those who live in coastal communities who are seeing the impacts that I've been describing. So please bear with me for a little more information. There are more than 400 dead zones around the world where nothing viable can live or breathe, and 5 massive plastic gyres in the ocean. In fact, what His Excellency was referring to earlier was a mini version of a plastic gyre, which collect around the world in locations I described. Plastic and other toxic pollutants that have found that do not absorb, do not biodegrade, and end up as a result of ocean currents just collecting in these massive, enormous places. So hats off to you, sir, for at least giving us a small idea of what that might look like. Only it was far more attractive and it had a much more uplifting message, I think, in many ways. So, recent studies have projected that by 2015 there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. And as I'm sure you're aware, you are scientists after all, plastic breaks down into small particles that are then eaten by marine wildlife thereby entering our food chain and ending up invisible to the naked eye on our plates. That's something that is not well understood, and that combined with irresponsible fishing practices, which have left 80% of fisheries nearly or fully depleted, means that globally we are on a path to increasing destabilizing competition between countries for scarce resources within national waters and beyond. Seen, for example, with the intensifying of conflicts among local and industrial fishers, authorities, and countries, and of course, private piracy. In many ways, the Middle East marine environment is both a microcosm and a magnification of global problems. From the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean, including the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, and the Gulf, Arab countries have over 30,000 kilometers of coastline. A fragile environment threatened by pollution, overfishing, loss of biodiversity, climate change, and large-scale industrial activity, including petrochemical and energy plants on the coasts, as well as the world's heaviest tanker traffic on the seas, with grossly inadequate environmental regulation and oversight. In addition, our region includes coastal countries that are among the highest plastic bottled water consumers of the world, some consuming 33% more plastics than the world average. And while many countries and regions now struggle with the dislocation of millions of people due to conflict or social upheaval, underlying but too often overlooked causes are water resource mismanagement, that is better, and climate change related, as in, for example, Syria, Yemen, Sudan. Conflict now has only exacerbated the devastation of coastal communities and marine ecosystems which serve the entire region. Put simply, all these factors are putting us on a path towards ocean ecosystem collapse, which will result in burgeoning economic decline, poverty, malnutrition, crime, the destabilization of societies, and the massive migration of tens of millions of people seeking food and economic security. And as I've seen with my work, with the global challenges of the displaced, the missing, the marginalized, and with those suffering crushing poverty, the implications of such massive suffering are dire, not only for today, for those immediately affected, but for coming generations everywhere, and the loss of educated, productive, human potential, that potential that is required to rebuild nations or conflict regions, and also in dangerous, unprecedented polarization and other potential drivers of radicalization and future violence, and the loss of hope and confidence in the future. That human insecurity and political instability threaten us no matter where we might live. From this perspective, ocean health is a matter of national and global peace and security. One dead sea is enough. And that is why we need you to help us reverse the damage we've inflicted on our life support system, the blue heart of the planet. The next 10 years may be the most important in the next 10,000 years for us to secure an enduring future for ourselves and for our children and theirs. If we as a global society are going to be successful in achieving the ambitious goals of the Paris Accord on climate and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, we need government policies that are grounded in science, investments in technologies, and an informed public that understands the immense complexity of these issues and what we must do about them. For all of this, we need your scientific research, knowledge, credibility, and collaboration. I can't emphasize enough how important it is for all of us to improve access to an understanding of critical data for policymakers and the general public, to better communicate the science and its implications for our shared future. In my public service over the past 4 decades, I've had the privilege of learning from many scientists, and I've become intensely aware of the all too often overlooked importance of your work as vital building blocks of stability and peace, in discussion and in policymaking. This is something in Jordan we have long understood. After my marriage, as the minister already referred, I was privileged to play a part in Jordan's pioneering regional conservation role. And I won't go into those details, but that work was underpinned by work